Hello everyone, welcome. We're gonna get started here since we are planning to continue on our agenda and promptly on the hour. So I'm gonna share my screen right now so we can go ahead and get going. So I hope you all are here today to learn about the Watson Institute and the Watson Semester Accelerator. On our agenda for today are introductions. We'll go over what the Watson Semester Accelerator is. I have some details about our inspiring alumni. I'll share a video, or maybe in place of a video with all these individuals here, we'll have Adara share her pitch, which will be a little more inspiring than a video. And then questions, since we are a small group, feel free to chat them in as we continue along and we can make this more interactive. So without further ado, let's begin some introductions. I'll introduce myself. My name is Miranda Williamson. I'm the Director of Search here at Watson Institute. Prior to doing this, being in this role in Boulder, Colorado, I worked for University of San Diego's School of Peace and Justice, and I did recruiting and admissions for master's programs there in peace and justice, social innovation, and conflict management and resolution. Before that, I was getting my master's degree in conflict resolution at Portland State University. I really believe strongly in my role as playing a small impact in all of your lives to become change makers and providing pathways to educational opportunities for individuals like you who want to have an impact. So I believe that's my role in creating change in this world. Adara, I would love to turn it over to you to introduce yourself.
Hi. Well, hi everyone who's on the recording, and I know Farah. So I was in TKS wise this is the TKS community. I was in TKS for 3 years. I explore a lot within sustainability. Specifically, I'm really interested in circular systems, which also tied into what I kept working on in Watson too. So I did focuses in plant genetics and the future of food and the future of fashion when I was in my Activate program year, because when I was in Activate last year, I was also in Watson Institute for a semester. And I joined Watson Institute in January 2021, and it's like a 5-month program. Miranda will tell you how the Semester Accelerator works. But I joined as on the venture track, which means for the 5 months, you work on a venture. And I didn't have a venture planned or anything that I would be working on. And I wasn't sure if I still would continue to work on a venture afterwards. I just wanted to go through the process of going through an accelerator to build a venture so that I knew what the skills were to do so. I thought it'd be a great experience. And I met so many awesome people from around the world who I'm still in touch with now. So I really loved the community and having the forcing functions to, in the 5 months, go through all of this curriculum and building of a venture. My venture was called Trona. It was focused on circular fashion production, and it was a clothing brand. And I'm not currently working on the same thing necessarily that I was before, but I'm still exploring the future of fashion. And right now I'm exploring digital fashion because I want to move towards the circular fashion system. And Watson also helped me after I finished my program. I was also introduced to Brian Halloran from Halloran Philanthropies, and they helped create an artist in residence program for me. So that's like a mentorship. I did an 8-week mentorship with a fashion designer named Erin from New York, and her brand is also focused on sustainability. And she's had so much experience as a fashion designer. So for 8 weeks, I worked with her, and she gave me deliverables of things to do related more to actual fashion design. So I spent my summer doing a lot of that, and that was really helpful for me to figure out what pathways that I can take as I continue to explore what I could be doing in the future of fashion space.
I love that. That's amazing that your connection to Watson led to what your next opportunity was beyond Watson. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we talk about what our alumni go on to do. So what is Watson Institute? What are we? I'd love to just give you all an overview of what Watson Institute actually is. We are a semester accelerator. As Adara said, we are a 4-month program. We are designed for early stage social ventures or ideas. So we're in kind of a niche where we're not for someone who's had their venture running for multiple years and been turning a profit. We are for those individuals who have an idea and don't know how to take that first step, or maybe having a venture that's been going for a year, but aren't quite sure if they're doing the right things. We're really for those individuals who want to take that idea and take that venture and learn how to increase their impact and learn how to scale. We also help those individuals connect to the right resources and find the right people to really build that venture. So how do we do this? We do this through what we call our pillared approach. And our pillared approach really is 4 pillars. And the first pillar is our classes. So we have classes that are focused on transformative, what we call transformative action, which is focused on building leadership skills and building you as a leader and someone who can create sustainable change in the world. So I like to think of like the Tom's Shoes model and how they got it so wrong in the beginning when they launched their venture, and it was selling a pair of shoes, and they provided a free pair of shoes to someone in need. And their vision was good. Their goal was good. They were a social venture that was creating change. However, they were actually doing more harm than they were good. I went on a trip to Haiti, and when I was there, I saw local merchants selling these Tom's shoes. And what was happening was the shoes would arrive in Haiti. They weren't getting to the people they need. They were being the people delivering the shoes were being bribed, and all the shoes were then being sold on the street for really inexpensive, and putting all the local shoe merchants and cobblers out of business. So there was all these unintended consequences of their business model. And so what we do is we help. They've since changed, just so you know, they've since changed their business model. But we help our scholars identify, well, what is the root cause that Tom's Shoes was trying to address? They were trying to address poverty. And is the solution providing a pair of shoes? Is that really just a Band-Aid to that issue? How would you actually create a business model that addressed the root cause? And so that's what we help, the pitfall that we help our scholars try to avoid as we teach them how to be leaders of change in the world. The next piece, the next course is transformative entrepreneurship. And that class is all centered around concrete skills to build your venture. How do you do finance and accounting for your venture? How do you build these concrete skills, build a pitch deck to pitch your venture to potential investors? All of these concrete skills that you need to get your venture off the ground. So those are the courses. The next piece is tailored mentorship. We really work hard to identify mentors that can support you in your work. Adara can say her mentors have been pretty transformative in her life. Mentorship is really important. We've since adjusted our program. We not only supply mentors for you that either help you in an area you need or an area related to your venture, or we also, we teach you how to utilize those mentors, and we teach you how to find mentors in your own community. So we've been working to make that program even more robust. The next piece is master courses. So we bring in every Friday high-level entrepreneurs to teach a master course. And we allow one-on-one time with those high-level entrepreneurs for individuals who have ventures who are related. Adara, what was your favorite master course teacher?
My favorite was Sarah Beth, I think, or Justin. Justin was the first one. Justin just had like a great energy and like great takeaways, and he was a really great presenter. So that one was great. I really liked Sarah Beth still because I think it really connected to the things that like I think about in my life, especially because like I'm at this stage where like I'm on a gap year. I don't know necessarily what program I still want to take, although I have to apply quite soon. But like her whole concept that Sarah Beth works on is like branding yourself, so personal branding, but also the idea of hybridity. Like you can have an intersection of different things, which we learn a lot about at TKS. Like you can intersect gene editing and climate change or like all these different things. And she talks about like how to brand yourself and how to think about like how you can spend your life as like a hybrid person, because you can work at the intersection of things instead of a traditional role, which I thought was really cool because I've been exploring those things a lot.
Yeah. And Justin is Justin of Justin's Peanut Butter. You may have heard of that. He sold that at what, 30 years old for millions of dollars?
I don't know. It was a really cool story though. He was just experimenting with it. Like it was something he wanted to make and then he turned it into something. I also really, it wasn't like a formal master course, but I did like a brain pod kind of thing with Eric, who is the founder of Watson.
Oh, Glustrom.
And yeah, Eric Glustrom. And we did it with the founder of Pop Sockets, David Barnett. And that was really great. Like we just had like a little like intimate chat, like 5, 6 of us, just kind of about like his story and like relating to like our ventures and things we're curious about. But he also had like really similar story, like building something. Like he just wanted to make the pop socket to wrap his like headphones around, and like the way that he just spread it organically. I think it was in Colorado where he did that too. It was a really cool story, and I thought was super inspiring. And like I learned a lot in terms of also his venture being related to sustainability.
Yeah. Well, yes, absolutely. And so I think that brings me to the final piece or pillar of Watson. And what we do is we build a global community. And as you can hear from what Adara is saying, is that she now has a network of people to pull upon. So that's what we do, is we build a global community. We really are a global cohort. And there are individuals joining from all over the world. It really is a unique experience and time to engage with people doing similar work with similar passions for change around the world. So program delivery, I think this part's important because we are in a hybrid fashion. Since COVID, we've been running first virtually and now hybrid. So we are bringing individuals to Boulder, Colorado now. We're bringing about 12 this spring. And then there will be about 18 joining virtually. So it's an interesting space right now where our technology allows everyone to feel as much in the room as possible. It will be held, the classes will be held from 8:30 a.m. Mountain Time to 10:30 Mountain Time. So it is a pretty, I keep admitting people and they're dropping off. I wonder what's going on. Oh, here we go. Okay, good. Okay, maybe internet issues happening right now in some regions. Okay, so yes, so individuals will be joining from, like I said, 8:30 a.m. Mountain Time to 10:30 a.m. Mountain Time. So that's when the group will meet all together, and that's during the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then everyone is paired in pods, small groups, and we base these on time zones where they're able to connect together. Adara, where were the individuals in your pod from?
Mine were in my time zone because we were doing the virtual program. It's a little bit different. Like my cohort was all virtual because of like restrictions and everything.
Yeah.
Because when you are, I think, in person, you adjust the same time zone, so you go to the same things every day.
Yeah.
But for us, it's like much easier to do time zones. So I had people who were just in different states of the US. Yeah, and that was my group, and they were all really awesome. So, but then there were also groups like in other regions too that would meet together because like if we went to meet with them, it'd probably be like 2 a.m. for us. But
Yeah.
we also do like donuts where you have like little like one-on-ones with people too. So you can, of course, like on your own time. So many of us just like would set up like calls just to catch up on like the progress throughout the program. So that was like another way we connect. But like the pods were like a good accountability kind of meeting every week to catch up on things.
Absolutely. And then we also um, had community events. Those have been really well attended this semester. We offered to not do a community event last week because it was so busy, and the community advisors that we have students assigned to these community events. They were like, no, we have to have a community event. It's our time to relax. It's our time to have fun. So those are always fun. So I'd like to share a little bit about our alumni, some information about our alumni. We now have over 290 alumni from 69 countries. Together, they've raised over $100 million and created 1,000 part or full-time jobs and impacted over 5 million people around the world through initiatives they've led. So in the beginning, I did share that I believe that my way of creating change is playing a small role in individuals like you and these lives and pathways to educational opportunities like Watson. And these statistics clearly show what that can look like. And then like Adara, who was looking for her next step, this is where our Watson alumni have gone. Some of them have been selected to Y Combinator, the Echoing Green Fellowship, Forbes 30 under 30. They've gone on to study at universities like Harvard, New York, Princeton, Columbia, among others. I find these statistics really important. So 97% of alumni are employed or continuing their education or building a venture. So they're working in a field of their choosing. 98% of alumni report using skills they've learned at Watson Institute up to 6.5 years after graduation. So we just had an interesting, a student who was a political science major like myself. I was a political science major in my undergrad, and he joined the program saying he didn't even learn how to open an Excel spreadsheet. And I think that's true. I didn't learn any real applicable skills during my time in my undergraduate degree in a social science. However, Watson makes sure you leave with applicable skills like knowledge of using spreadsheets, knowledge of sending mail merge. That was a really popular one this last semester. So how do you send mass emails? Sort of some of these real applicable skills that may apply to your venture, but will also apply to any career you go on to do afterwards. And then this was a great statistic I love as well. 2 out of 3 alumni report staying in touch with their mentors 7 years after graduation. Great. So I do have a video I would like to share from our alumni, or perhaps Adara could share her pitch. Everyone does leave the program equipped with a pitch, and I think that would be of more interest than the video. What do you think, group?
Yeah, I can do my pitch. I don't know how long the video is too, if you want to like show that after too, like just to show like what other people are up to. Yeah, I have my pitch too. So
Great.
this was the pitch I did at Watson Summit, which is kind of like the end of our program. Like a few people go, we just pitch what we worked on in the program. However, like, just so you know, like, this isn't updated with like what's going on now. This is just in May 2021, like where things were at and like what my pitch was. So this is my Watson Semester pitch. Can I share this material?
You will, yeah.
Hear it? Okay.
I will share the recording and the material with everyone afterwards.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. "21 hot tubs of water were required to make the outfit that I'm wearing today. That's over 4,000 gallons of water, or enough water for you to drink for 4 years of your life, for just a shirt and jeans to be produced. Globally, we're producing 80 billion new clothes per year. Think 1.3 trillion gallons of water, or 4 billion hot tubs. And water is just one piece. There's CO2 emissions, microplastics, and other waste being produced as a result of our unsustainable fashion production system, and part of a problem called fast fashion, which is the state of our fashion industry. In this system, we use our resources to produce clothing, and it's then worn, and at the end of its life cycle, they usually end up in a landfill for millions of years. And these linear systems were designed to make clothes as fast and as cheap as possible, and to help brands keep up to date with the demand for trends. But they come at a big cost for people and the planet. I think that it's apparent that we can no longer afford these linear systems, and we need to shift to more sustainable ones, circular systems. Circular systems use our resources to produce clothing, and at the end of their life cycle, we're able to continue to create things in a loop by breaking them down to basic building blocks like dyes, fibers, or other items that we can turn into products. That's why we created Trona. Trona is a slow fashion made-to-order clothing brand targeted at Gen Z and millennials. We're on a mission to help create a circular future of fashion. We do this in 4 ways. First is our production system. So typical jeans require over 2,000 gallons of water and produce 34 kilograms of CO2. Products that we produce at Trona will not be creating any excess waste because we're going to use material that already exists and upcycle it into new products. Products will range from $30 to $60, and they'll be made to order, which means when you order it, we create it, which allows us to be size inclusive, but also helps us reduce any waste from inventory that's not purchased. Packaging will be made of sustainable materials, and at checkout, customers can carbon offset their shipping. Next, we want to be leaders in innovation and show other brands in the fashion space systems that they can adopt when producing their clothing. One thing that we're working on right now is making microbial fuel cells to treat dye wastewater from dyeing textiles. Our rehome program is for when you no longer want your Trona item, you can send it back to us and we'll find it a new home, transform it into something new, or we'll dispose of it, which brings us to disposal. At the moment, 84% of garments end up in landfills at the end of their life cycle. However, 95% can actually be recycled. We want to commit to a future where 100% of clothing can be recycled by keeping that true to the clothing that we create. So when we have clothing brought back to us that needs to be recycled, we'll keep it till we're able to recycle all parts into something new or break it down to basic building blocks. At Trona, we want to create a future where you can wear the clothing that you love without harming people or the planet. And we invite you to join our movement to help create a circular future of fashion. So that was basically my Watson Summit pitch. I just took out the part about funding because one thing we do multiple times, like we're always iterating on our pitch. So it's like the first pitch that I did was very, very different from this pitch. And we also pitched at Funding Week, which is a week all just on finance, which is something I knew so little about before. Like my weakest areas, I think, were like finance and like legal stuff that made no sense to me. So when we had skill building on that, I learned way more than I did coming in. But yeah, we also have parts like of our slides where you're talking about like your funding, because there can be like investors who are watching who might actually decide to fund your venture when you're pitching somewhere. And when I pitched at Funding Week, Brian was in my room and he was the person who helped set up the fashion mentorship program that I did for 8 weeks in the summer and was very transformative. So that was a cool experience.
Thank you so much, Adara. That is amazing. I would love to actually switch gears and ask you a few questions. And I invite the audience to join in and ask a few questions as well. So my first question is really, Adara, why did you decide to join Watson Institute?
It was, well, initially when I found out about it, was kind of like through network, like someone brought it up to me. So I was like in contact with this organization called Thought for Food when I was exploring the future of food. And one of my mentors there, she was like, I think that you should apply to this program. She referred me. I started chatting with one of the program admissions person, and she told me all about it. And I didn't know about it before, but then when I learned about it, it sounded a lot like the things that I was interested in, because for me, social entrepreneurship has always been a really big thing. And at TKS, we work on a lot of like social entrepreneurship kind of ventures too. And I wanted to see like if that's like a possibility for me to go to like Colorado and like meet all these people and like have the experience of trying to build a venture. So I applied. For me, I didn't go initially when I applied. I actually went like I think a year later because I wasn't sure about like COVID restrictions. And then I did the virtual program last like the last semester, I think, but it was January to May 2021. And I always say this, but I think it was the best like virtual program experience I've had like so far in all like virtual programs. I just felt like I was worried a little bit. Like I honestly was so worried because it's virtual, right? So like, how am I going to like connect deeply with people? And it's hard to stay engaged when you're on like Zoom so often. And with like the virtual program, you go every single day. It's to your classes to like build stuff. So I was kind of worried about that, but I had such a great experience where I felt like I was growing because I was going every day and being immersed in the community and activities and everything. And I felt like I did build those relationships. And I think it was designed in a way that like made that possible. So I was really happy that I was able to feel engaged, even though it was virtual. But yeah, I just joined because I like heard about the mission and it really aligned with the things that I was already interested in and like what I want to continue to do. And kind of like more of a post-secondary aspect because I was like in high school at the time and I wanted to see how I could extend it further and like broaden my community of people that I meet. So like I met this like really great global community, people working on like a wide range of things all around the world. And I love to stay like in touch with them and see what they're up to still.
And I'm really curious how your TKS experience complemented or maybe Watson was a continuation of that experience. How did they complement one another in that way?
There's a lot of similarities in terms of like things that we learn about and like mindsets in the community and even like certain skills. Like I remember a big takeaway of mine at Watson that like I really developed more was like understanding the importance of like why you're working on something and having like that root cause analysis with the problem, like really understanding the problem. And in TKS, we have a lot of stress, especially in the second year program with Activate, which is really problem focused. And the first year is really technology and like the skills focused. That you want to really understand the problem as well as you can and like have the root cause analysis. So I remember we were doing root cause analysis at Watson and I was like, oh, I recognize this because I did this at TKS. But it was just extending that and practicing these skills. And then I felt like I learned more venture specific skills. So extended my learning from like, I have certain skills that I can use to build a venture. Everyone comes in with their like unique skill sets and backgrounds to build whatever venture that they're interested in working on towards like whatever problem they care about. And for me, like that was more like kind of the technological side and sustainability things that I was interested in. A lot of the technical skills came from in TKS. But like I said, I personally didn't understand like finance very well, legal stuff, like actually the steps to like create a venture from like beginning to like actually like launching something. So Watson helped me learn those things. And I think it's great to have a community who's doing it like at the same time as you. Like we're all going through these steps like alongside each other. And that was really helpful. And also we have like these deliverables to submit things. So if I'm doing a root cause analysis from this class today that we just learned about, I'm submitting it tomorrow and someone's giving me feedback on it right away. So like it's a forcing function that I have to do it now, not just learn about it and I can do it in like 6 years. but then I
Right.
get the feedback too. So I'm like learning how I can improve it, which is super valuable.
Absolutely. I mean, I have more questions, but I would love to see if the audience has any questions. You can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask either myself or Adara.
I have a question about how you said how TKS and Watson Institute are similar, and you said it's like a continuation onto your learning and how it goes deeper into how to like start your own venture. Can you like go deeper into like what exactly you learn um in like those specific steps where you take to start your own venture?
Well, there's a lot of different steps to like building a venture, but like kind of what I mean with that is like I didn't even know like what some of the steps are and like the tools that you use to like really understand your problem. And we would have like different activities and things that like created the forcing function in terms of like you're actually building a venture. Like we would have to have empathy interviews and you'd have to have like, I don't know, like 15 before next week. So you have that forcing function, you're going out, you're doing this now, and so is everyone else in the program. And then we move on to like the next step, which might be we have a website due in 2 weeks and we're all building our websites now. We're all working on our pitches for the next and like iterating. And it's just like kind of you're in the environment of people who are doing the same thing. And we're all learning the steps kind of like in an order from problem to launching or having like a really strong pitch of like what your idea is and where to take it forward and like a plan for that. Um, and every week is kind of themed differently too. So like the beginning was really focused on the problem and starting there, which I think in TKS we do get like a pretty good understanding of problems. Um, but then from there we have to like figure out like we have like a marketing week, we have like a specific finance week, we have like pitching weeks, we have all these different weeks focused on like different aspects, but you're doing it with people who are also at the same time actively building a venture. So I think that's like a big part of it too. But I felt like the difference is kind of like because we're all doing it at the same time. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but like yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of us working to build a community is we want you to be part of this community that is in this journey of creating change through the vehicle of entrepreneurship together. So I think that's a big piece of it.
Yeah. Did you have any like specific parts of that you're like really curious about? Like are you thinking like of like how it like extends like whatever you're working on or
I was thinking, yeah, because I'm already at a stage of like what I'm working on, and I was wondering like how would that fit in? Like, would I have to kind of like go back, start over, or um, like yeah, how would it fit into my journey of like what I'm building, basically?
yeah, I'm not exactly like maybe Miranda can explain this too because I started from the beginning because I wasn't sure what I wanted to work on, but like from what I do know is a lot of people in the program have ventures. Some of them have been working on it for years, some of them have been working on it for like months. So obviously like they have like a product they've either created already or they have like a strong idea for a lot of people. You still go through the same exercises. So like that can help you like also question like if this is like the right approach for it or like how you can improve it always. Um, but you don't have to just because you do an exercise to like strengthen that and to understand better doesn't mean that you have to change your venture. It's just like more like you learning these skills that you can apply to your venture and like how you can improve it. But you don't have to like kill your project and be like, oh, let me start from the beginning with like the problem and like this isn't a project anymore kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I
like
don't know.
Tom Shoes, even though they learned that their business model wasn't buy a pair of shoes, give a pair of shoes away, they learned that that wasn't actually addressing the root cause of the issue. They didn't dissolve their business. What they changed to do is offer micro grants to local communities instead. And so that's like an example of a shift, but I can use an example of a student who came into our program. His venture's actually been going for 5 years. So he's been up and running for about 5 years. And he told me, he said, now I'm learning how to do everything right. He's like, Miranda, if you came to Rokundu Foundation, which is located in Rwanda, he's like, Miranda, if you came to see what my books look like before Watson, you would be appalled Now I'm learning how to do all of these things right, the right way. And he means like his financing books. He just sort of started his venture and didn't know how to do any of these things. And just because he's learning these skills doesn't mean he's dissolving his venture and starting from scratch, but he's able to go back and improve the processes moving forward.
Thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Adara, I'd really like to know, what is the most valuable skill you gained while at the Watson Semester Accelerator?
I learned a lot of skills because we did like a skill sprint every week. A skill sprint is like a specific skill. We have a lot of different classes, but one of them is lab, and lab is focused on like a skill. So like one week could be like PowerPoints, one week could be like budgeting. So there's a lot of skills that I learned that I didn't even know before. So there's a lot, but I think, and this is something that I did know about before, but I think I really strengthened it and like understood it better. And like just on a deeper level, and I really think it's like one of the most fundamental important things is understanding the why when you're working on something, in terms of like not only the root causes to the problem, but also like community implications, like having those empathy interviews, understanding like how people interact with your product or the problem that you're working on. I think having a really deep understanding and like a holistic view of the problem you're working on and how you want to solve is really, really important. Because like the example with Tom's, you can be working on a Band-Aid solution, but also it also helps like you have that drive to keep working on whatever you're working on. So I just thought that was like so important. It like came up so many different times. And like with mentors and different things too, like I'd be pushed to like think about that too, because I was still like coming into the fashion space and I don't even know, there's so much to learn about a problem, and it takes like a lot of experience like within a field or like with talking to people to even understand like what is the thing that I can be working on, and why do I care about it so much. So I think that was like the thing that I think is like my biggest takeaway overall and like really sunk in for me. But there were so many hard skills I also learned. I think like I mentioned like the finance and like the legal stuff specifically, like I didn't have like much clue. Like I would like Google it and try to like figure out like how could I incorporate a venture and all these different things, but I was like so lost, because it's confusing. There's a lot and you don't know where to start.
Well, I love that. I have one final question, unless the audience has another question, and then I'll share next steps and we can call it a day. Does the audience have any more questions before I ask my final question? Okay. Adara, what advice would you give a brand new scholar joining the Watson Semester Accelerator?
I think it would have to be to really like value the relationships and work on building strong ones, because the community like will stick with you. Well, or if you put in like the effort into your relationships, should stick with you afterwards and is so like invaluable because you have this community of people who are going through similar things to you, even though it's a different thing they're working on. They're going through similar kind of struggles and social entrepreneurship, and it's great to have that community to both like work alongside, but also just like as friends. The community's been like my favorite part, and your mentors, and also like the Watson team, because you'll have different teachers and you'll have the like team organizers like Miranda, and like so there's so many people that you'll interact with at Watson, and I think those relationships are really important to like take forward with you. So like from the get-go, like reaching out to like everyone who's in your program, like you can just like message all of them and be like, hey, do you want to have like a call one-on-one with me? I think that's just a great way to just get to know everyone and then figure out how you can just maintain relationships throughout the program. Sending people updates, all those things. Yeah.
I love that, Adara. And you'll be impressed to know we actually just implemented a class on how to maintain relationships. It's a little
that's awesome.
I think it's a skill we think you either have or you don't, but it really is something we can cultivate.
That's awesome.
Okay, well, I am going to share what's next. So just so you know, the application deadline is Monday, November 15th for spring program. Also, if you're still unsure, you've heard from me, you've heard from Adara, but if you're still unsure, one benefit to being in this hybrid world, you can join a class from anywhere, and I'm happy to arrange for you to join a class. Just reach out to me. I'm happy to arrange for you to connect with another alumni. You already heard from Adara, but I'm happy to arrange for you to connect with another alumni or a current student as well. So if your decision is, if you're still in the decision-making process, I'm happy to work with you to help you get the answers to those questions you need. Also, just so you know, all know about 90% of admitted students receive scholarship packages that cover from 50 to 80% of tuition. So if you're worried about the tuition, the first step is to apply. That's where you'll find out what scholarship level you qualify for. Okay, great. Well, if there aren't any more questions, we'll go ahead and end a little early, and I will be reaching out with you all with my contact information, and you can feel free to follow up.
Great. I think Carlos has some things in the chat, so like a question about like how the hybrid mode, like the hybrid model will work, and then if you can have closer contact to an alumni, that would be great.
Absolutely, Carlos. I'm happy to connect you with an alumni. We'll connect. I'll connect with you, and we can chat about what alumni would be a good fit, what area of interest would be a good fit for you, and then conversations about the hybrid mode. So I went over kind of how the larger picture of the overview of how that hybrid mode would work. It will work with some scholars joining virtually and some joining in person. As Adara said, we do work to create connections across in-person and virtual. We work through virtual community events. We also work by forcing one-on-ones called donuts. So there are kind of forced connections and conversations, and we are always working to deepen those. We just had our mid-semester review, and 100% of individuals said that they felt connected to the community. So it looks like we're doing things right in regards to creating those meaningful connections in the hybrid space, which is actually the hardest model to teach in. So if anyone can do it right, we can. And it's not without its challenges. It has posed challenges, but we've overcome those, and we're ready to do it again. Are there any other questions? Well, thank you all so much for joining. As always, I'm available if you want to reach out with any additional questions. Thank you so much for joining us, Adara. We give snaps here at Watson. So snaps, Adara, for sharing your pitch with us. Thank you so much for joining today. Okay, bye, everyone. Bye, y'all.